Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of Video Clips and a couple of announcements. First of all, keep those career inquiries coming. Lots of people want to be in our business right now. It's fun to tell the truth about health, and if you'd like to join us in doing that, send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. I'll also remind you that we have this wonderful workshop on Thursdays. We're recording it, so if you missed last week's, you can still join us and listen to the recording. It's led by Kylie Roybar, who is a marvelous therapist, and it's to deal with the stress associated with COVID-19. And it is stressful. Some of you saw my Friday video last week, and it's hard not to cry sometimes. It's hard, no matter how much you know you're right about things, to not be negatively affected. When she brought up doing it, I thought, gosh, I need to be in that class too. So, if your relationships are frayed and you're finding yourself a little lonely these days and having difficulty with some of the changes that are being brought about in your life or your children's life as a result of all this nonsense, just send me an email. We'll send you details. It's 6 weeks in a row. We've created a little platform, passcode protected, for people to continue to access the lectures and the discussions, actually, because there's quite a bit of discussion, and it's very soothing just to be in a group of people who are struggling like you are and I am, and we all are in the midst of all of this insanity. So anyway, Kylie is a sweetheart. I think she's one of the best therapists I've ever met. I've sent people to her who are just thank me all the time that I refer them to her. So anyway, we have a while to go before we're finished with all the madness, so that might be helpful. All right, so I want to talk about some lockdown madness today. Jay Inslee has appointed himself the King of Washington State, and he's made all of his citizens serfs. On May 12th, he announced that no one can leave the house, even to purchase food, if they refuse to be tested. He stated that he had confirmed with the Attorney General, Bob Ferguson, that there can be sanctions in civil and criminal court if anyone violates his order. During the press conference where this was announced, one reporter asked, quote, "When it comes to contact tracing, how are you guys going to handle people or families who want to refuse to test or self-isolate? Like if they want to leave home to get groceries, I know you said they can't do that, so how will you make sure they don't?" And Inslee replies, "We will have attached to the families a family support person who will check in with them to see what they need on a daily basis and help them. If they can't get a friend to do their grocery shopping, we will help them get groceries in some fashion. If they need pharmaceuticals to be picked up, we will make sure they get their pharmaceuticals. That's going to help encourage them to maintain their isolation." As far as refusal, the emperor says, it just shouldn't come to that, and it really hasn't. We've had really good success when we ask people to isolate, and they've done so in really high percentages, so we're happy about that, and we believe that will continue. Therefore, those individuals who refuse to cooperate with contact tracers or refuse testing will not be allowed to leave their homes to purchase basic necessities such as groceries or prescriptions. He says those persons will need to make arrangements through friends, family, or a state-provided family support person. Those are quotes from the Emperor or King of Washington, Jay Inslee. He also issued an order stating that in order for Washington state restaurants to open, they will have to collect the names of diners in order to assist in contact tracing. In those areas approved by the Emperor for restaurant reopening, capacity must be limited to 50%, and no more than 5 people can sit at one table. Restaurants will be required to create a daily log of customers and maintain that log for 30 days, including telephone, email, contact information, and time in the restaurant. This is to aid in any contact tracing should that become necessary. Under Phase 2 rules, hand sanitizer must be available to employees and customers. Restaurant tables must be placed far enough apart that guests at one table are 6 feet apart from guests at another. Quote, "It is strongly suggested that customers wear a cloth face mask covering any time they're not seated at the table. Buffets and salad bars are not allowed in menus, and condiments have to be one-time use only. In addition, restaurants are required to screen employees for signs of COVID at the beginning of every shift, and each employer needs to designate a COVID-19 supervisor to monitor the health of employees and enforce the job site safety plan." Now, to illustrate what life is like in Washington state under the Emperor, King, whatever you want to call him, Jay Inslee, who clearly doesn't care about people at all, This is a first-hand report. I live in Washington State, and I'm dumbfounded that our draconian governor has hatched up his next unconstitutional violation in the name of fighting the virus. He announced he's hired and trained over 1,300 people, including some National Guard, to become contact tracers. I live in Benton County, and there's a COVID quarantine center ready for children that require quarantine if they test positive or have potentially come in contact with someone that tests positive and cannot be adequately separated. It's located in Bethel Church on Shockey Road, just a few short miles from my home. So let me get this straight. In order to fight the deadly virus that hasn't reached the same level as the flu, anyone who can't guarantee that they can adequately quarantine away from other family or household members, or who have only one bathroom, can potentially be forced to go to a quarantine center, and this includes minor children who can be taken away from their parents if they test positive, or even if they've just been exposed to somebody and test positive. So every home with only one bathroom has the potential to lose children or loved ones separated to be housed in a COVID quarantine center. I went to the CDC website to get more information, and they actually support this nonsense. I can think of so many scenarios and families that would not meet the criteria listed. Think about an exposed person has to have a private room and a private bathroom. So if you have two children sharing a room, one of the kids are going to be taken away from you. The households with multi-age groups that share a living space. I mean, people with elderly parents, their parents are going to be taken away. But what's really disturbing is isolating the children and taking them. You can't gather in the church for church services, but we can gather quarantined children who've been taken away from their parents. So this writer goes on to tell me she found a job posting for social workers to supervise the children and provide education and activities while they're quarantined, and they get 20% more than their normal salaries if they'll sign up to do it. So social workers are being paid to watch children in a church who are positive for COVID or exposed to a COVID person and removed from their home because they need to be quarantined. I mean, it's shocking and it's frightening, and it is Big Brother. It is Big Brother. And I guess maybe the only good thing we can say is that some of these politicians are showing us what life would be like if they controlled the rest of the country. We should all think about that really hard. She finishes by saying, hello out there, it's time to wake up, people. It really is time to wake up, people. We're going to have to do something about this. So stay tuned. After Memorial Day, I'll be talking about what we're going to do. All right, so we'll go on to look at what's going on in Michigan. According to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, during the week ending May 2nd, 2020, there was no flu in Michigan, no cases. The report specifically said they broke it down into laboratory virologic surveillance, 0 new positive influenza results. Congregate setting outbreaks, 0 new respiratory outbreaks. Influenza-like illness outpatient surveillance, 0.8%, below the national baseline. So this was the week ending May 2nd, and what did Gretchen Whitmer do? She extended the lockdown to May 26th, and she doesn't understand why people are protesting, because she is the Queen of Michigan, has appointed herself to be the ruler of the people there, and trouncing all over their constitutional rights for absolutely no reason at all. Now, I can't wait to hear how people are going to spin this, because if you took all the counties in Michigan and divided them by 5 and looked at neighboring states and took into consideration that somebody from Ohio might have crossed the border, you can see why Gretchen would lock everything down. I mean, I don't know what you make of these things, but I'm appalled. Now, as if that isn't enough, let me tell you what's coming next. House Resolution 6666 was introduced by Bobby Rush. It's called the COVID-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone, or TRACE Act. He's a congressman from Illinois who has a very strong anti-Israel voting record. For the record, I thought I would tell you that. This proposes allocating $100 billion to organizations that can provide testing and contact tracing through mobile health units or at people's homes. The grants would be made via the Department of Health and Human Services and the Director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It says, quote, authorities may award grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing for COVID-19, to trace and monitor the contacts of infected individuals, and to support the quarantine of such contacts through mobile health units, and as necessary, testing individuals and providing individuals with services related to testing and quarantine at their residences. So this communist, I don't know what else to call him, thinks that the federal government should have the ability to conduct surveillance on all of us. It's an invasion of privacy. It's a resolution. It'll never pass the Senate, and the president will never sign it, thankfully. But interesting guy, Bobby Rush. Has a lot of plans for us. He must really love Inslee and Whitmer. I would imagine they are great friends, and together they could cook up all kinds of things. Now, as if that isn't enough, the Rockefeller Foundation made an announcement through its president, Rajiv Patel, in an interview with Andrea Mitchell on MSNBC. So Patel, of course, so these people are so much smarter than us. I said this last week. If we need to listen to the smart people, right, because they're so right about everything, he says that we're not doing enough testing to do the right type of surveillance. So the foundation's going to invest $100 million to test 3 million people a week for 8 weeks and then get it up to 30 million in 6 months, which means the plan is to test everybody, this private foundation. 5 to 15 billion is allocated to hire 300,000 Americans in what he calls a community health corps who will execute the plan and do contact tracing. People who have been exposed to COVID will be identified and quarantined. It's already started. They have been in contact with mayors and health departments and governors of states. Patel says this is the way for Americans to safely go back to work and to school. Really? The foundation has created a digital sharing platform for the data, and he says it's a really small investment because we're losing billions of dollars every week as the economy is shut down. So now we get to wait for the Rockefeller Foundation to give us permission. I'm going to have more to say about the Rockefeller Foundation in my upcoming book. Horrifying. Go look them up and see some of the things that they were involved in during the World War II with the Nazis. And you'll understand why maybe people like me are a little panicked about the Rockefeller Foundation being partners with our government to do this type of thing. So this stuff should frighten you. Like I said, I'm really interested in seeing what the haters are going to email to me this week about how you spin this data. And I can't fathom anybody thinking this is a good idea. And if you do think it's a good idea, you don't belong in the United States of America, where we treasure our freedom, where we are here. Our Constitution guarantees our freedom and our liberty. You belong in China, Russia. Venezuela is a good place to be. I'll highly recommend Cuba. It's a wonderful place. And there are some great countries with totalitarian regimes in Africa that you might want to check out as well. You would feel right at home there if you think this is a good idea. All right, that's all for today as usual. Pass this on to anybody who you think might enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you tomorrow with more news.